Hey, I'm Natalie Potts, and this is the Natalie Potts podcast. If you want to talk about your business, your life, your health, and more, then you are in the right place. We do it all with humour, love, and inspiration to help you create a life you love. So, let's dive in.
Hello.
Thank you so much for joining me today. It's a pleasure, as always, to be in your company. I really do value your time. Let's kick off for anyone that hasn't been a part of seeing us together so far. One, where have you been? But two, share about Joel.
About Joel. So I'm a marketing entrepreneur. I've got a really bad cold. I'm an author in the marketing space. I speak on stage on the subjects of marketing and mindset and business and personal development. And I really like Shrewsbury Town Football Club. There you
go. Interesting. Good. Thank you for the share. We're going to get straight into it today because we don't mess about. We're very similar on lots of things, you and I. And I always love the fact that you're very transparent and honest and real. And I always feel that we've got that rapport and trust where I can ask you anything I want. And I'm going to keep it really simple because you said and shared with me the other day that coaches overcomplicate anything and everything. And we do.
Yeah.
And it stayed with me this week. And that little bit behind you that says stay hungry, we're just going to build very impro style, which is how I like it, on really what that means, because I'm very much in a place at the moment where I don't see people hungry, and I'm really interested to unpack a bit with your thoughts and how we can change this with helping people believe more in themselves and just bloody go for it.
So there's sort of two bits to this. One is that lots of people aren't as hungry as they think they are, which is tricky. And the other bit is about having empathy to the idea that one person's hunger is different to yours. So that's, when someone's having a really bad time, it's no use to them if you're like, well, I've had a worse time than you, so I can't empathize with that. Yeah. That's not useful. So if someone thinks they're hungry and then you say to them, but you're not hungry enough, that's not useful. The other side is that sometimes people think they want things, but actually what they want is what that thing brings. And so they're not hungry enough to do the process required to get there. Yeah. And they need to realign themselves. And that's kind of what we help people do from the marketing side. But on a personal side, it's about being really, really clear on what you want from the next 6 months, what you want from the next year, what you want from the next 5 years. And sometimes that's not easy. Like I will freely admit right now, I don't fully know what I want for the next 5 years.
Yeah.
But I know what I don't want, so I know what I need to happen so that the things I don't want don't happen. And it's having that clearly defined purpose. And a lot of people, they look at material things, or they look at, oh, if I could just pay off my mortgage, or if I could just pay off my car, then I'll be happy. And the answer is you won't. That's not how it works. When you get there, there'll be something else. But if you anticipate there'll be something else, it's a lot easier to stay hungry.
That's interesting. I'm going to just pick up on a point about the, struggling sometimes to get 3 to 5 years and see that vision maybe. What if people are struggling to do that? Because some people just can't see past a year. Has the landscape changed since COVID, etc., without hooking on that?
Massively.
I used to work in a business where we worked 3 to 5 years, and then that hit, and it was like, you don't talk any more than a year. And now I feel that we could be in a place where we don't be agile and adapt. We have a risk of we're not visionary enough and seeing the big potential that we could do, and we're limiting ourselves by putting a year.
Like so much bad shit's happened to people in the last 2 years. However you dress it up, some horrible shit's happened in the last 2 years that people have got used to the feeling that things won't work out. It's really hard to be hungry if you can only look 6 months ahead and you're worried if you're going to be locked in your house for another 6 months. That's it. Psychologically, that is a step to get over.
Yeah.
So we've all kind of got this like hostage syndrome thing going on where we've been trapped in our own lives. And so maybe before COVID, when the world was our oyster, a little bit easier to be hungry. The post-COVID world where ultimately, what if there's a new variant tomorrow and the rules change? What happens? And I think that can be a block for some people. They're like, well, I won't make too many plans because my flight might get cancelled, or I won't make too many plans because we might have a lockdown, or I won't push too hard because if it goes wrong, then the government won't pay me my furlough money because I've gone self-employed. All these sort of blocks that aren't really helpful for like your long-term thinking.
Yeah. And that part of it, like you said, you do a lot around marketing and mindset, and we have to always, I can't just work mindset people, but I'm always relating mindset has to be there. It's like the undercurrent the whole time. You've got to be working on your mindset. And you and I are very familiar with an amazing coach, Sherry. And I did some work mindset yesterday around talking about, again, some of the narrative we have and the stories we tell ourselves. And it's hard to face into, but you've got to ask these tough questions of yourself.
Yeah.
In order to move forward. And I guess some reflections I've really had is, okay, so actually, let me ask you a different question. Stay hungry. Like, where does that come from? How did that come about to be part of everything you talk about, your book, everything?
So there's two answers. I think you've heard them, but obviously the listeners haven't. So answer number one is we had a client who did commercial vehicle leasing for short-term leases. So if your work van broke down, you could go and get a van off them. If you needed to go on a 3-day trip, you could hire a car off them. And they had 2 depots, and their franchise that was above them went bust. And they came to us and they said, look, we've got 2 weeks to sort this out. We need a rebrand, a new website. People need to be able to book online. We need a marketing plan. What can you do? And it was tight. And we turned it all around, sorted it all out for them. And you couldn't drive past their forecourt and not notice that it was empty. They constantly were booked out. And they booked a meeting with us and we were really excited. And they came in for this meeting and they were both really pale. I was like, oh, this is not going to go how I thought it would. And they were both like, this isn't what we wanted. We liked it before when it just ticked over. We wanted a lifestyle business. This is too much. And at that point, Andy and I, my business partner, just said, we can't work with people like this. It's fine. It's a perfectly viable objective. I want a lifestyle business. I want to tick over. But it doesn't marry well with the marketing agency. And so that's the kind of glossy story. The real story for me is my dad spent a lot of time in mental hospitals when I was growing up. My mum worked 3-4 jobs to put food on the table. Sometimes she went without food so me and my brother could eat. So sometimes she wasn't there and we had to fend for ourselves. The family had to muck in. I remember my grandparents coming around with shopping to make sure we had stuff in the cupboards. And that was fucking hard. That was really hard. And, you know, several suicide attempts for my dad. Things like not being able to go on certain school trips because we couldn't afford it. Always feeling like I was missing out. Even though like my parents did everything they could to try and make sure I didn't, you always had that underlying feeling that, oh, I'm not like the others. I just grew up with this sense that I am not having that for my family. And various other things have happened to me since where I'm like, yeah, I'm not having this. Like, right, my dad's in prison now because the mental health system failed him. And when I got married, it really cemented for me, like, I'm going to stay hungry. Like, I've never completed it. I'm never going to make it. And that's fine. I'm happy with that. I'm going to always drive forward. There's always something else I can push towards. And that might not be making money. I'm not particularly money motivated, but I really do like having impact. So Monday this week, a charity I really love came in to see us and we do the work for them for free because what they do is amazing. And that kind of thing fills my cup, makes me excited, keeps me hungry. And I'm excited to do more of that. And I think if you can't find that level of purpose, you're going to really struggle as an entrepreneur.
It's funny going back to the story part. I suddenly started to realize yesterday, and what you do very well is share your story, and that's what connects us with people is storytelling. And the pain I've probably been through in leaving I had a lot of grief therapy almost about how I left the company after 20 years. So I just didn't know myself. It's like, I'm just wrong. Like, what do I stand for? I know I love what I do with the coaching and mentoring, and that, like you said, fills my cup. It's where I'm at my best, my energy changes, my tone, everything changes. It's an amazing place to be. And I've had to create the story and I've not been ready to. And it's unpacking that and looking at, well, how do you then do it to help you move forward? and lots around, again, just getting out there, being very hungry, but trusting the process and just loving it as well. I'm very driven towards money in some ways, and I always was years ago. And I want to kind of, there's nothing wrong in that. You know, if somebody challenged me today that, you know, you're all about money, and I was like, but we ain't got business if we're not making money.
Yeah. It's how you keep score.
It's my driver, because the undercurrent of the pain point, and like you said, some people are actually very happy to stay in pain. They think they want more, but they don't, and that's okay. But don't sugarcoat it. Just be honest with yourself of what you want. My real pain is that I don't actually have a story that's like that. I just have something. I worked really hard, did well, it didn't go to plan, and it failed, and I felt horrific in it. I've had to go on work on myself, my personal growth, and create something new, because I love it, because I think, like, what if? And I'd rather give it a go than not tried it. But my biggest drivers are the vision of where I want to be and what I want to create, and the experience and time with people I love, and not having those experiences and that time with people scares the life out of me.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think you own your story until you're willing to tell it. And I'm 35 now. It took me till I was 33 to fully tell my story.
Yeah.
Because I was worried about the people it would upset. I was worried about what people might think. I was worried about judgment, all the things that's natural to worry about. I was worried about. And then I had COVID helped, but it's had a bit of a fuck it moment. I was just like, yeah, bollocks. If people don't like this, don't work with me, it's fine. And it coincided with a situation where I realized that I could tell my story to help a lot of other people, and that empowered me. Where I worry, I look at LinkedIn, I look at Twitter, I look at Instagram, TikTok. A lot of people tell their stories for sympathy. And I think you should use your story to show that you can empathize with others, and there's a difference.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So there's a lot of entrepreneurs out there that have had traumas, have gone through significant things, have decided that entrepreneurship is a way that they can regain control of their life.
Yeah.
And so my story resonates with them, and that's why I tell it. And then they're like, oh shit, so what else has gone on? How come, like, you know, everything looks pretty rosy for you. You've got an amazing office, you've released a book, you travel around the world. But yeah, I sold my house in COVID to keep this going. Like, and the week I sold my house in COVID, my dad tried to kill himself in prison. So when people are sugarcoating their Instagram, sugarcoating their LinkedIns to tell you their story that they want sympathy for, don't believe all the hype. Don't listen to all that bullshit. There's stuff going on underneath. I remain hungry despite the stuff that goes on around me. And to be really honest, obviously there's no growth in your comfort zone, but I genuinely believe a lot of people are very stressed out within their comfort zone. Sitting on the sofa watching Netflix, worrying about your life is in your comfort zone, whether you like it or not.
Yeah.
I deliberately push myself outside of my comfort zone. I do make myself physically ill doing that sometimes. I push myself too hard, but I grow on the other side.
Yeah.
And that's what it takes.
Because you think that everything, I think about, like, what's the cost of things, but that, and again, it's something I'd rather try and give it a go, because the potential, the opportunity is so much more. Yeah.
And, like, don't get me wrong, in other areas of my life, I'm not necessarily like this. So I've just been on holiday, and we went to some cenotes in Mexico, which are like underground lakes that connect all the underground rivers. And they have zip lines over them. And the idea is you zip line at like 40 foot in the air, get halfway across, let go, and drop into the lake. There's me, my wife, and a couple that we didn't know that had gone on this trip. And I looked out at this lake and I was like, shit, that is high. Like, I don't really fancy this. Like, what's the point? I don't think I'm going to enjoy it. And, like, if it goes wrong, I'm definitely not insured for this kind of mental stuff. My wife, who's secretly Bear Grylls, charges over to this zip line, doesn't think twice, takes a run up and just goes absolutely flying. And she ends up, like, bruised head to toe because she's just completely arse over tit into the water, laughing her head off, just thinks it's the most hilarious thing ever. And then like the peer pressure's on me to have a go myself. So I sort of just very tentatively slide across the water and drop in like a pencil. But her approach to life is like my approach to business.
Yeah.
But she's not like this in her career.
Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting, isn't it? And even our conversations down, just still thinking about the story part and everything, like you said, like being ready to tell it. And I've not been at points. And that was a question yesterday, like where are you in that story part as well?
Yeah.
And then I realized the light bulb moment a bit for me was, I feel a real injustice about the way I was treated, and I don't want others to feel that way. And that becomes, so my pains are my gift now. And I knew that at one point when I was going through that, I was just like, I'm just nowhere near to thinking about that. But then my dad used to say things like that, like, you'll use this in time, it will come around, it will be your gift. Whether you see that now, you don't. And there's parts of elements where I still probably need let some of it go. And I'm cool with that. Like, it's never going to be 100% and perfect, but it's enough to help me move on and be the driver.
Injustice is a massive driver, right?
Yeah, it is. And I'm more American in that I'm not stupidly sensitive, and I hope I'm not defensive on things. I can be if I'm obsessively passionate about it, and I get ridiculously protective about people I love and family. I can be an extreme on that. I'm more the American, the big dream, and I'm drawn towards, opposed to, pain. Like, I just don't want to sit there.
Yeah, it's tricky in this country, right? Like, obviously, a lot of your listeners are UK based.
Yeah,
hard to dream big in the UK because hardly anybody here has ever dreamed big.
And it is. And I say there's the 1%, the 1%. And I say to my clients, it's like, it is hard at times. Yeah, it is. And I can't, we'll sell the dream and everything and what people want. But the reality is, it's not unachievable and it's not impossible. But we've just got to find a way. And you've got to get, the biggest thing for me, if I was to have done one thing sooner, and it's a question you put onto an incredible presentation you did the other day for my community, what would I have done, wish one thing I'd done sooner? And for me, it would have been, actually, do you know what? I could lie on that. If it was in my corporate time, I should have left sooner. And I was like, I had that conversation again. My dad, who's a great role model in my life, as you know, but I said, he was like, you should have left 2 years ago. And it was just that. But it is what it is. And it's, now I can either go, round houses on that, or I can think, what am I going to do now?
I think every entrepreneur would think, I should have backed myself sooner, whether it's left their career, doubled down on themselves, reinvested, because you didn't know then what you know now.
No, and I know that to be true. And people have challenged me on that I said, I wish I got into coaching sooner and things. But I think that sometimes we sit on the fence too long, or we're waiting for somebody, or the next, we just got to do it and like have more of a, we are here once, our time is limited, just go for it.
And 5-6 years ago in the UK, business coaching was nearly unheard of.
Yeah.
It was like considered very American.
Yeah. Yeah.
So perhaps you took the opportunity when you could, and actually you might have ended up jumping into another career that you hated.
Yeah. Yeah. It's an interesting one. And I think, but that going back to that question of something I wish I'd done sooner was, I guess, the difference of being around like-minded people and the connections part. And obviously always people are asking me about how to cook connections and ideal client. Like, you've got something amazing to put out there into the world. End of. There's the one thing that you can do. There's one thing I could throw you onto a stage with and talk about now. End of. And it's the part of, I've created so many connections through just building relationships and like that, being myself and helping people, serving people, doing the stuff that people say to do, and building that, having the trust, the time, the consistency, showing up, being out my comfort zone. But the environment part, I think, is completely underestimated with people, from a people part and a business part.
Yeah, I think so. The environment's massive. Like I was going to say, if you're in the position to do it, go on holiday where Americans go on holiday, because just to see the difference in mindset is insane.
Yeah.
And then again, hang out where people who are what you aspire to be hang out. And I don't mean, like go to the Ritz for lunch. That's not going to change. I mean, it's a nice thing to do, but it's not going to change your perspective straight away, because you'll still have that them and us feeling. But if you just buy the next ticket up at the next event you're going to and just see how people behave and talk to each other, and then at the next one, buy the next ticket up. And it's not about the haves and have-nots. It's about discipline, culture, patterns, and analysing what people do, because success leaves clues, I guess.
Yeah, 100%. And it was a conversation we had pre this talk today, but I recognise as well recently that I can be with amazing clients, and they are amazing. And just picking up on that point before about environment and getting out of Americans, one of my most ideal client, and he smashes it, and he's phenomenal. He inspires me so much. He's currently out at Grant Cardone in Vegas at the minute.
Nice.
It's the first networking thing he ever did, because when we started working together, he's like, Nat, I just don't network and I want to. So we've worked on this as well, and he's out there because I was
hitting it with a hammer. That is going big, right?
Like when in the people he's quoting on his social media, he's like, this guy, look him up, and Sam Walton and people. I'm like, they're at another level, these people. And I just watch his videos and I'm like, oh my God, I wish I was there. There's real FOMO hitting in.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that being able to, I have amazing people in my world, and I do, and don't underestimate what you've got that's great as well. But it can still feel the loneliest place. And again, this environment of business, setting it up right, but the environment of the people around you and who your circles are is like, again, it's the stuff that money can't buy. And I knew that enough when I started my own business, went all in last year. I knew that I was working with loads of people, and I loved that. I thrived off of leading people, and the energy I got from being needed by people. In fairness, it felt good to feel needed. And then to have just myself, I hate it. I hate working on my own sometimes.
Yeah.
Like, you've got to create that you can have actually all the clients, the most amazing people, but they're still clients as well. And the people around you that get it, and your mum and dad don't have to get it. Your partner doesn't have to get it. I don't want them to in some ways.
Yeah, you need that.
That's what you've got to start creating, because that's a game changer.
And the reality is that circle of peers changes. It evolves over time, and people find that really hard. So, like,
that's interesting.
I hate being the biggest fish in the pond. Like, it's a rule I have that I can't be, because if that happens, I'm in the wrong pond.
Yeah.
But I really offend people when I leave the pond, and I don't like upsetting people. So
it's a conflict.
It's really tricky. And there's a few ponds right now where I'm like, I need to get out of this pond. What's the most elegant way to get out of this pond?
Fly away.
Yeah. And then there's ponds that I want to get in where maybe that group are like, he doesn't deserve to be in this pond. And it's like an ongoing game. And my friends don't get it at all. Like my lifelong friends are just like, fucking hell, you're always hanging around with different people. Like, what's going on? I'm like, well, I outgrew those. Or they started doing shit I didn't like. Or the values alignment changed. They're like, well, don't you just stick with people? Aren't you loyal? I'm like, I'm loyal to the people I love. Like, the people I love, I am fiercely loyal. But in terms of personal development, I'll do what I need to do to be around the people I need to be around. And it's massively changed my life. I have phone calls with people now that I cannot believe are ringing me. It's not because I have like starstruck celebrity kind of butterflies. Because I know that these people will have a dramatic effect on the rest of my life. Yeah. And it hopefully, and I guess the way you give back is that when you identify other people that are coming on that path, and maybe they're not quite where you were, you invite them into the pond. That's how you.
Well, the next step is that you're a great leader of yourself, and then you're a great leader of then others in that inspirational path.
Yeah, because I think it's really tricky to say to someone you're in the wrong ponds, because they can take it the wrong way. But for a lot of people, you're in the wrong ponds.
Yeah, and I've had to do that recently with something. It's nothing about the investment that I've made and when I'm surrounding myself with great people and learnings, but I am saying, like, it's not the right environment for my mindset. It's holding me back, and I need to be in the depths of shit. This scares me, and I want to invest like that. I want to invest in things that go, that scares me, but it's not the fear of, oh my God, panic mode and stress. It's the fear of, like, get on with it, girl, let's go for it. And it's very, very different. And that's me trusting my intuition more, which is something I've really been focusing on last year. It's a very different space, but it's only through my personal growth. And again, being around people to stretch me in that I see things differently. You change the way you see things, and the things you look at change. Yeah,
exactly. And like for you, as you and I have discussed multiple times, and I see you do it because I've done it, things will never be 100%. So if you get them to 90%, just fucking go for it. And then the other side of it is that's a lonely mentality to have, because not many people operate like that. They like security, and I don't, and you don't. See, like security actually terrifies me because it's confined, and I don't like being confined. So I would rather be I guess, like, for someone listening who doesn't quite know what I mean, like when there's a funny noise in the house, there's the people that hide under the blanket, and there's the people that go and find out what it is. And I'm the one that goes and finds out what it is. Whether you think that's stupid or not is by the by. But I'm curious to see what's going on and what I can achieve next. Yeah.
Joel, I absolutely love my conversations with you. I know I'm gonna be back on your podcast at some point. You're gonna be back on here, and that's probably how I'd like to keep it. Is that we kind of have that informal, what's on our minds and happening at the moment. And I think it's great to keep that conversation going. Where can people connect with you?
Hit me up on Instagram, joelstone13. Buy my book. Come and hang out, chat, ask me questions. I'm an open book as such.
Amazing. Thank you so much.
All right, take care, Nat.
Thank you so much for listening. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. If you felt inspired, please make sure you share this with a friend and subscribe to the podcast so you never miss an episode. I really love hearing feedback from you. So if you have a question, topic, or want to hear from someone you love on this show, then head to my website, Natalie Potts Coaching, and let me know. Until next time, have an amazing week and know that you have value to offer this world.